to there.
Hey everybody. Hi.
There we go.
I was here. I'm ready. Boy, my purple shirt looks more gray, I think, on that, on my screen.
That's true, it does. No, it looks more gray.
Well, a couple people seem to be showing up.
Cool.
Paula. Hi, Siofra. Hi, how are you?
Remind me to fix that light next time so we have the proper lights.
Yes. We are rock and rolling. Hey, a few more people have shown up. Says I got 8 so far. Chill Baby says, hello, beautiful day here in Indiana. Nice day here, too. We actually have our 1 day of sunshine for the week. It's happening now. And Paula says, fine, and you? How was your week? It was an interesting week. I got to meet my totem that appeared in my room this week. My deer showed up, which was the first time. So that was kind of interesting. Ian says hello to everybody. Blair says hello from Florida. Hi, how's the weather down there? Trying to think of anything this week, just dealing with the trauma that my granddaughter's going through. But at least Mercury seems to have assisted in getting her appointments sooner rather than later, so that was good that Mercury assisted in that. Ruth says hi all. Hi Ruth, how are you? And Paula says super cool vid on New Age and witchcraft. Thank you. I never know when I decide to do a subject how it's going to be received, and so far more people are watching this one in the first few days than any of my videos in the past, so yay. Blair says too warm. Yeah, that's down in Florida, so okay. Adam says hey Siofra. Hi Adam. Lily Putty says any thoughts on the blood moon tonight? Well, I brought out my my wand, my lunar wand. Where did I put it? I brought it out. Here it is. Since it's a full moon today, and I'm going to do the amethyst crystal web project like usual. And I mean, you know, if hopefully we actually have clear skies tonight, I'm going to go out and watch it because I love a lunar eclipse. It's like the best thing in my opinion because it's just like so easy to see, and it happens so much more frequently than a solar eclipse, and you really get a feel of the moon being a giant ball in space when you do that. So yeah, that's kind of cool.
Sorry.
Aaron Jones says hello. Hi Aaron. Yeah, so I don't have any specific things, don't have a group or anything at the moment. Ian's trying to rearrange his computer table.
Well, I suddenly realized I'm talking straight up the back of the microphone, so it's going to be the worst possible position for people to try to hear me from.
Alrighty then, we are rearranging the furniture. But anyway, Adam, question, how often do you astral travel, astral project, and what goals do you usually have when you do this? Well, I do it randomly whenever I feel like it, and sometimes I have a goal and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm just wandering around and checking things out and looking at stuff and doing whatever. I mean, I was bored once in a car driving and there wasn't anything to do and I was in the back seat. So I closed my eyes and wandered out of my body and was looking around, and I thought, I've never looked under a highway before. Maybe I should do that. So I went down under the highway and discovered a hidden base under the highway, which was a real surprise.
I know of someone, or had a friend who, have a friend actually, who did something I wouldn't advise. He was doing the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram astrally while he drove to work in Eugene.
That seems like a split.
Seems like a bad idea.
Yes.
He never got any wrecks, but I guess we didn't have the time to do it, so we'd do it when I drive to work.
Lucky?
Yeah.
Lucky he didn't wreck. Luna says, hi all. Hi, Siofra and Ian. How are you both?
Hello.
We're doing pretty good. Jonathan says, hi. Hi, Jonathan. M. Paula says, wow, a deer as a totem must be sweet. Well, what's interesting is this is the first time that I've actually ever seen my totem animal that way. I mean, I see it like in actual deer, at times of crisis when I think I might die, a deer will suddenly appear and say, it's okay, not to worry. And I go like, good. So I'm happy. And of course, every time I see the deer around town, it just gives me a lift. But this was like, I went to bed, I was laying on my side, I saw an eye, then I saw a bridge of a nose, and then the nose, and then the head came into view, and then the whole deer was there, just like that. And it's a doe. So, yeah, it was pretty interesting. So, Luna says, hi, Adam, did you get my email? Adam says, hey, Luna, I got your email. It was really long, I forgot to reply. Okay. So Serena Silverstone says, hi. Hi, Serena. Love your name. Emerald Dawn says, hello, blessed full moon lunar eclipse. Thank you. And, yeah, it's kind of fun. Illy Putty. Boy, my
like
mouth.
Silly putty
Sort of like,
the S.
right. Any knowledge on dead birds on one's patio? Yeah. Do you have cats? Is avian flu in your area? How did the bird die? Would be question one. I mean, every family is going to have different symbolism for that kind of stuff. And in my family, traditionally, if a bird flies into a window and its neck breaks and it falls dead, then someone in the family is going to die. Although that seems to have faded over the years. That was more my grandmother and my mother's generation, and it doesn't seem to apply as much to mine.
Yeah,
So
well, I think that stuff is really individual more than anything.
I think so too.
I think it passes on because the interactions people have together, and they kind of pass it on like Chakra pot or something.
Right.
Yeah.
It becomes like the way the universe sends messages to these people. And there was another one where dogs would start barking if somebody died. So Luna says, at Adam, no worries, wanted to make sure you got it, as I've been having problems with Outlook and the messages don't always get through. Billy Putty says, they fell from a nest upwards of my patio table, so they were little ones, huh? Yeah, that's sad when that happens, but it does happen. Nature is like that. They got too far close to the edge and fell out. It's always sad. 3 birds jumped from the nest and died on the table, had me kind of nervous. Well, I think, things are dying constantly all around us, so if we were always worried that something died near us that was a bad omen, I don't think anyone would ever leave their house. I mean, it would be terrifying to just consider the implications. I saw a woman online once who said that she made arrangements with the crows that they would stay away from her and she would stay away from them, and then she saw one day and was convinced it meant she was going to die because they had never shown up before. So you have to sprinkle omens from the universe with a little bit of like common sense as far as...
Yeah, because some accidents happen.
Yeah.
Some things are just accidents.
They do. And sometimes accidents are just there to like a different message. Maybe the message is for the nesting parents, not for you. That says, hey, don't let your kids out of the nest too soon. Maybe they're young and they've just had their first batch and they don't know the rules yet. Anything's possible. Anyway, so Mixed Divas, Angela says, hugs and blessings, everyone. Hope you're all well. I think so. A little bit tired this week a few times, but not anything overt. And Mixed Diva says, good afternoon all. Blair says, I wonder how many people who are magically inclined but don't know it have been misdiagnosed with schizophrenia. I think about that a lot. Well, not just schizophrenia, but Kundalini rising. has ended some people in institutions when their kundalini starts opening up and stuff.
Because the doctors really don't know what to do with that.
Yeah, there was that one psychiatrist who actually wrote a book about it and started to notice the differences between that happening and true mental illness. But the fact that one of the main symptoms of schizophrenia is
hearing voices.
Hearing voices, but knowing what other people are thinking. And so telepathy, psychic abilities of all kinds, being able to foretell the future and so forth. So it makes it really hard for us psychics to not end up, on the wrong end of a diagnosis. Lily Putty says death can also be rebirth, also very true. Adam says, question, how do you remove a soul tie from a person if they have an entity attached?
Is it a clip-on? Sorry. I couldn't help it.
His sense of humor is coming out today. I have no idea. I mean, there are certain kinds of ties that are difficult to break. If you don't want to have anything to do with a person, you can just do a basic cutting cords kind of thing. Never think about them again. Never contact them again. Don't, cross the street if you see them on the other side. I don't know that having an entity attached makes it more difficult or even is an applicable thing at all. So, Lily Putty says, agreed, Blair. Luna says, Blair, I was a mental health worker a few years back. 2 of the patients I worked with saw demons and were terrified. They were diagnosed schizophrenic, but I'm not sure their diagnosis was at all correct. Yeah, so, I mean, it's one of those, I think the way mental health works, like I've seen a lot of different mental health professionals over the year for therapy for the trauma I suffered as a kid and a young adult and whatnot, and not a single one of them ever inferred in any way whatsoever that they thought I had a serious mental illness. But I think that's because it's easy for me to let them know I understand the difference between physical reality and the things that are happening in the room right now with me, and then things I might see.
But the things she perceives are actual, so that, she picked up more about me before she knew me from my staff and stuff. She really got it right when I met many people at psychic fairs and things, and none of them did it for me.
But from the view of like a psychologist or someone who's treating you doesn't understand this kind of stuff, I mean, I had people who were scared to death of me going to talk to somebody because they were pretty sure I was going to get tied up and sent into a hospital setting, never to be seen again, because they were dealing with similar psychic events and they were convinced it would happen to them. I don't know. I think I just have some natural protection or something around me that assists me in that I'm not even consciously aware of, perhaps. I don't know. But yeah, it is a tricky thing to try and figure out how to deal with and figure out what is and what isn't. Projections and, I went through a period of time when I was crazy and I was seeing things that I think actually were there, but it interfered with my ability to function. And I think that's the thing, is like if it interferes with your ability to function in the world, so like make your breakfast, eat your food, talk to people, then it's a problem.
Not helpful at all.
Right, it needs to be dealt with, learn control at least, and how to deal with it. So it's complicated.
Yes,
There's no easy answer to that. So Mixed Diva says, death is inevitable. Death is so feared by many cultures, and learning to accept it is so important. Yes, absolutely. And Luna liked your joke. Mixed Diva did too. Serena says, I'm so glad I've finally been able to catch a live, usually already asleep. Greetings from the Netherlands. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Yay. I love when people from other countries and continents come in to say hello. So welcome. Blair says, I was diagnosed with schizotypical pre-schizophrenia a few days ago because of all the things I see and hear and believe, and I know it's untrue. Yeah, you have to be able to trust your therapist because they're not supposed to judge you on your belief or faith. I mean, so sometimes getting that question out of the way first to know that they're going to be neutral on the subject is important. Because if you get an uber Christian therapist who is like, suddenly their religion is triggered in their head and then they're going to change how they interact with you, that could cause a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem for a lot of pagans, is to find somebody that isn't going to like bring in all of that stuff into their
I agree.
situation.
You know,
How can you trust, it's hard to trust people as it is.
Back when we got started, it was worse.
And me, being born in 1950, it's like that was the time when epileptics were insane and were put in institutions. So, yeah, it's probably pretty much a miracle I didn't end up somewhere like that. Vanessa V says, hello, happy Teacher's Day. Well, thank you and hello. I did not know that. They come up with a day for everything, don't they? Adam says, question, is it rare for a spirit deity absolutely not wanting to work with someone for the simple reason that they do not like the person? No, it's not rare. I think that is actually, there's a lot of emotional connection that has to happen between you and a potential deity, and certainly they can decide they don't want to work with you for whatever reason.
And the other thing is that they can be just energetically out of harmony.
Yeah.
If a being that consists of mostly harmony, say, that's its attribute, isn't going to be around disharmonious people or events or things like that. I mean, you can just be out of tune with them, not to blame for them not being able to be with you, but they're just, your energy is incompatible somehow, and that's what happens with most of the goetic evocations that don't reach a full correct result, is that
They're just not in harmony.
they're not in harmony, yes. So
Well, I mean,
it doesn't imply bad or good.
So take a simple example. So you speak English and the deity only speaks ancient Cantonese and wants someone who understands its language. It wouldn't be that there was something wrong with you, but you wouldn't be a good fit. Be a way of trying to
That's a good example.
put that into some kind of a context.
I feel like I should add on top of that beings, when you talk to them, they speak a metaphorical language. So
well, right. I'm just using that as a random thing.
So you get the meaning, even if they really didn't speak the same. If it was, say, like a dead magician you contacted through
some means.
Yeah.
Medium.
I was trying to think of the word for the necromancy.
Oh.
Sorry, couldn't think of the word.
Necromancy. So Blair says, any new Fae encounters? Not this week. I had the male she come and visit me last week, and this week was my totem for the first time. So I'm assuming that is a progress thing. So M. Paula says, on the subject of mental illnesses and mediumship, did you know the World Health Organization has classified the item ICD F44.3 states of obsession and dissociative trance? It could mean the medical community is starting to admit that mediumship is real, although super uncool to classify this condition as a mental illness.
Yeah, I agree. That's pretty judgmental.
Considering the fact that in most religions you're going to have the people that are members of that go into a fugue state and go into a trance-like state and have communications with the divine.
You know what the problem is with all this, though, is that there are some people that are genuinely just screwed up and do have those things as mental illnesses.
Well, right.
And that's the problem. How
one
do you
of the
tell
most
between someone who's psychic and someone
who's not? That's why I think the ability to understand and deal with actual physical reality is probably one of the things that, if you know the difference between them and you're not completely caught up in whatever it is. And even if it is real, it's never a good idea to get completely caught up in the energy of the transmission to the point where you lose track of yourself, your loved ones, your lunch. It's just balance is.
Yeah, you need to maintain control over those abilities one
right.
way or another. Yeah.
So, Violet says, hello, my favorite peeps. Hi, Violet. Nice to see you. Blair says, I think we've had enough evidence of mediumship. However, the problem is that it's not explainable by science, plus Bible thumpers don't want to hear it. Well, and Jonathan says, hi to Violet. Krista says, they're not in harmony. Yes, that's what an illness is.
Yeah.
And, like when I was a kid, if I had met someone like me who could help me put it into some kind of a context to understand why I was different from other people, and that being different isn't necessarily bad or wrong. I mean, that's part of it too.
Yeah, 'cause in general, society judge you anything different than average as being wrong as a generalization.
So Mixed Diva says, same with people in regards to the deity thing, and sometimes you just don't mesh well with people, and that's okay. This is true. You might have an energetic clash. It could be just you're on different levels of things, and so communication's not productive or fruitful. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that can happen with that. So Violet says, hi, Dee. And Angela says, Violet, yay, hugs and blessings. Violet says, heart. Luna says, hi, Violet and Angela. Yes, and Krista says, for sure, my parents weren't born again Christians when they made me. My name means Christ-like. Totem. Adam says, question, have you ever heard of any stories of a servitor turning against its creator? If so, why and what exactly did the servitor do to them?
Dr. Faustus and Mephistopheles.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with the
Yes.
story, right? So I'll let you.
No, you can tell the
It's
story.
genuine.
No, doesn't want to tell the story. Read the book.
Well, yeah, there are stories, and Barden speaks about it as if it actually happened. So basically, he made a pact with a being who then ended up killing him violently when the time of his pact was up.
There's any number of examples in the grimoires in in the Middle Ages and stuff like that, where occasionally a magician would be seen running down the street for his life, being chased by ghosts, spirits, and demons and whatnot.
Well, I don't remember about the Dr. Faustus thing because it's been too long ago, but I think he ended up like cut into pieces and strewn around town or just something like really not very good.
I guess the point is, don't make pacts with spirits. Because especially if it's one of those negative oriented kind of things, like do this or else I'm gonna do things to you, that always ends badly, and I don't blame them for being upset, because I sure would not be okay with somebody kidnapping me from my house, putting me in a box, telling me I have to do whatever they say, and then waiting for my opportunity to escape, and then I'm going to, get rid of them so they can't do that to me again.
In a way, it's like treats like. I mean, if you treat beings badly, they'll treat you badly. I mean, it's just the simple same as dealing with people in that sense, even though they're not quite people, but yeah.
So Mixed Diva says, I like being different. So do I. Angela says, hi, Luna. Mixed Diva says, Siofra, did you ever find out if that bank in downtown Portland was haunted? No, because someone was not gone into that bank to find out. I mean, I went there in the Astral and I got a bunch of stuff from the past. I got some visions about it and so forth, but it's like I don't want to drive to Portland, so I'm not going to be able to do much there. I think there might be some portals or underground streams or whatever wreaking havoc in the area of Portland, but I haven't heard back from the person who volunteered to go and have a look. Maybe she'll show up today and let us know. Angela says, we read the story of Dr. Faust in mythology class. He brought it on himself. Yep.
That's absolutely true. Yep.
And Angela says, again, another entity tried to save him but failed because he was lured back by the scary entity. Yeah, well, fools are fools, right? And Adam says, Luna, are you still there?
Doesn't happen very often like that, but...
Well, I mean, let's face it, most people don't have the actual oomph to create something that could do that to them.
They don't have the chops to contact an entity like the Mephistopheles well enough to make a pact with them. And the beings will generally, of that sort, will only make a pact if they get something out of it, which means they usually want the person to be a pretty developed magician or something so that they can use those skills when he has to serve them in the afterlife.
Right. So Jonathan says, in many magic books there's warnings that there's a greater risk of becoming actually insane when being involved in any form of magic, especially if you are skipping steps. Should people be worried? Well, if they're
Depends
not
on the individual,
right,
really.
if they're not very skilled, chances are they're not going to get really serious bad results.
But I'd be, well, I'd say I'd be more careful if you have mental issues to start with, but then magic is good for helping a lot of mental issues, so.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we focus on the self-development aspect, because if you're a strong individual, there's less likelihood that that's going to happen to you anyway, no matter how far along you are, either the beginning, the middle, or, more advanced or what have you. But it is always a good idea to be sensible when it comes to that. If you're feeling anxious or uncertain about doing something, it's a good idea to take a step back and reevaluate, work on something else for a while until something might change and it seems like a better idea. But, the universe is a dangerous place. There's no getting around that.
Yep, you step out the door and get hit by a meteor.
Chill Baby says, I'm here too. That head count's got to be off.
Right, sorry.
Eddie says, hello everyone. I'm planning on charging my new wand during the eclipse with Scorpio energy. Any tips on charging with intention or using eclipse energy? Never charged a wand like this before. Sounds like a lovely idea and a good time to do it.
No, there's no.
I don't think anything special has to be done. It's just, focus on the energy and hold your wand and put it in there.
Absolutely. You can use the planetary energies, the elemental energies, and the zodiacal energies.
So
all kind of the same way as far as charging stuff
Lunar, up with water, and the Scorpio, which is a water sign. So sounds like it'd be pretty good of a combination there. Yeah. Luna says that Jonathan stopped skipping steps. Mm-hmm. Krista says, yay, or yah. Adam says, hey, Luna and Jonathan, I wanted to contact you both with regards to an important situation that regards mental travel, so I will email you all soon. I will see if I can send it today. Krista says, thank you. You're welcome. Jonathan says, aren't death dates for servitors specifically because they can get out of control? Yes.
No.
No? Okay. They're to make them more real.
That is a reason. But the main reason you want to, and you should put an ending date on any talisman or anything you use when it's no longer going to be functional. I usually use when I'm dead, it will no longer work, so those things will be unpowered, or if I lose track of it or something, somebody steals it, so that they'll stop working. But the idea, one of the main things is by setting a termination date, it tends to make that much more material and real. So not only do you keep it from getting out of control that way, but the main thing is to make it more solid and more earthy by giving it a termination date, and it makes these things more realistic and more effective. And that goes for talismans or rings or anything you charge up. Give it an end date if you're wanting to have a physical effect. Of course, it's not that important if you want it to have a mental effect, for example. If it's something to affect your mind, like a Mercury talisman. But still, anyway, that's the idea. So it has two purposes, and you should give it even to things that aren't going to get out of control, like rings and pendants and amulets and things. You give them a
that way,
date.
if you lose it,
well, yeah,
and then someone else picks it up, then they can't use it against you, which is a fear a lot of people have with magical objects.
Yeah, but it's not just about that. It's also about actually, and that brings in the earth element.
Because the earth is physical.
We're subject to time and space on this plane. The astral is spaceless, the mental plane timeless and spaceless. I mean, the astral plane is form. So if you want to take something down astrally, you need to give it a solid form. For example, there's a lot of things there, but yeah, there's a lot to it, and it's very important to make things really functional. I guess that's about all I can say about that.
Oh, I think that's good. Yeah, because, really, when it comes down to it, the more we know, hopefully, the better off we are. One hopes. So Luna says that Adam, happy to help if possible. I'll look out for your email. Jonathan says that Luna, surprised and laughing. Adam, thumbs up from Jonathan. Luna says, great advice, Ian, thanks. So we're caught up with that. So one of the things I've neglected to mention in the witchcraft and versus New Age thing was, since we've talked about it before, the New Age chakra system versus the real chakra system. Like, there is always so much to think about when I'm doing one of these videos. And my granddaughter and I were talking about it because she was asking a lot of questions and Ian was giving her some answers. And then I went, yeah. And this is another one of those examples that they try to simplify it and make it more like the levels of vibration. Refracted light would be a good symbol for that. And then just line them all up like a rainbow on your back. But in reality, the actual chakra systems that are out there don't use that. That's like not.
Yeah, and if you use the correct colors when you're visualizing and meditating on them, you'll bring the force through much more easily by having the proper colors and visualizing like the dakini and the chakra with the proper colors and the different symbols. Lum is in the root chakra. You know, picture it there in its color. Root chakra is a lot of intense red.
And that lines up with that one.
Sure.
But not all of them do. So it's kind of interesting. So Violet says, will you share your wand in your hand one more time? This is my lunar wand. It's covered in moonstones. I've got like 13 moonstones down the front, one for each phase. I have a silver, hollow silver tube inside the wand, and it's filled with crushed moonstones and then moonstones around the part that wouldn't fit in because it was starting to crack the wood, and then a moonstone on top to keep everybody in. I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. Okay, there's 12 here and 1 here, so I have 13 altogether. Because, you know, that's the lunar year, would be 13. And I have all different colors from black, you know, to the pinks and grays, and so, and you know, to represent the different times of the cycle. So whatever the phase the moon is in, there's something on here that can relate to it. So it's not like just for the full moon kind of thing, but it's a willow, and yeah, so I cut it on.
Isn't that how many mansions there are? 13, or is there more?
I don't know.
Might be 28.
I think there's 28 mansions.
Yeah, sorry.
Different system. But anyway, that's what we did, or that's what I did. And then, you know, using it on this time of the month to connect with that. But whenever I need lunar energy, I have it right here, so it doesn't have to be a full moon out there.
And it doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to do a big bunch of stuff if you got it set up like that. You just use it.
Yep, exactly. So, Krista says, I hear that. Screaming homeless people, perhaps? Yes. The Beezer says, for years I have often seen beings moving through the air at night. These beings are very small and invisible, and I can only see them by watching how they stir the energy around them. They move like schools of fish swimming in the air. These beings feel benign, very neutral, and I've often wondered what they are. Any thoughts? I see those too, and I just think that they're some type of fae, probably. And, you know, sometimes, yeah, we see all kinds of things. But the feeling is the important part. If they feel benign, then you're good, you're golden, as far as that goes. So, Luna says, did we already do this before I arrived? Who is the deity? Looks like Bridget behind you, Siofra. I'm watching on my phone, so I'm probably way off the mark. No, you are not. I brought Bridget out here today. She wanted to come in. So let me know if that shows up correctly. I made this. So this is one of my beaded pieces. And she just decided she wanted to be here, so I said, okay. I was not going to bring her, and I left the room, and she turned me around and brought me back, and I says, okay, fine. I'm I'm doing that for sure. So she wanted to join our proceedings today.
Looks pretty good, though the color's a little off, like everything is. Our walls don't look as purple as they are either.
Yeah, well, that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We need to get our light fixed.
Luna says 13, my lucky number. Violet says Lunar 13, awesome, love it. Krista says interesting. Violet says 28 mansions, yes. Jonathan says thanks for the answer, Ian. I doubt I'll ever create a spirit being, which I need to feed though. I think foolish fish has some he feeds. I think that's foolish. Goes with his name.
Well, and
I don't like the idea of hungry spirits. Well, yeah.
I entirely agree.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
one of the things that kept me from getting too interested in Santeria, because
They had a
you
lot
have
of,
to feed those once a week. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
some of them,
and-
some
And
intense,
some
weird
of them get
stuff.
pissed off if you don't.
And then they
you know.
take revenge. I remind
so
you.
that's just not a fun relationship, though they seem very friendly towards me, the ones that I've run across, but maybe it was a past life thing or something.
Luna says she sees these as well, meaning the little things that are moving around. Usually in my room at night, but sometimes in the day too. Angela says, oh, that is beautiful. Thank you. Motorin says, hello, Siofra. I messaged you asking about the wood for stabs and the cherry wand that I'm making. Just wanted to thank you, and I'm starting to get to know and understand what my wand wants to become. Awesome. Because that's the only way to make an effective magical tool, is to develop some kind of relationship with its energy. And I have jewelry that is snarky. Sometimes. I have a silver Tibetan dragon bracelet. It's a huge bracelet, and it will only sit on my right arm facing me if I have my arm in front of me, and it will not allow me to wear it any other way. I've tried, and it's like, no. Like, okay, fine. Make you happy. It wants to see me, and it wants to see the world, and it's got its ideas of what's the best thing. So Mixed Diva says, lovely work, thank you. Chill Baby says, I'm subscribed to Foolish Fish too. Luna says, she's beautiful, Siofra. I can't imagine how long it must have taken you. It was actually shorter than some of my other collars, for example, but it did take a little time. I found the pattern came from a pin, like a brooch or pendant or something that someone silversmithed, and this is the pattern that they used, and I just thought, this is a shape I can make, but I had to make it big enough to see. I couldn't make it small, because then you wouldn't see any detail, and I did do some research. So the birds that are around her are okay, they're her bird. I can't think of their name right now. It's a specific seabird. I'll have to look it up now, because I'm bad, I forgot. But, and the colors, picking the colors and everything else, it's just, and the Celtic knot work and so forth. I love Celtic knot work, and I've done a lot of collars that have Celtic knots in them, and I love the Celtic knots on her braids and just all around her and stuff like that. So, yeah, I had seen the pattern years ago, and just one day I thought, okay, it's time for me to make it. So I did. So I'm glad you like it. So Angela says, I got new porcelain dolls for my matrons after a statue. I went to look for a porcelain doll as a replacement, found a replacement, and one for one of my matrons I'd been unable to find a doll for. Yay. Violet says, how did you get that green canvas? Okay. The canvas is black. It may not be showing up right, but the canvas is black, and the green is, this is all beads. Everything in here is beads that I sewed on 2 at a time at the most, sometimes only 1 at a time depending on the space. So it's like the blue for the sky, the birds, I found out what their colors are supposed to be, so there's 2 birds on either side of her hair, and then the Celtic knots down here to kind of make her look like spinning breast energy shooting out, which I thought was kind of entertaining. And this emerald green for her dress. I picked the colors because green, red hair, this says Bridget to me, and so.
But as far as the canvas goes, it was just painted with black acrylic paint.
And it's flat. It's a flat black.
And it looks kind of greenish.
Yeah, I think that's just one of those things about the camera that we have. It doesn't give, necessarily true colors. So.
It does pretty good if we have it adjusted, right?
Yeah.
Your lights back.
Yeah, our lights went away. One of them stopped working. We have to figure out how to do that.
Which is pretty sucky for an LED light.
Yeah, no kidding. I thought they were supposed to last pretty much forever. Modrin says, yeah, I really learned that you got to spend time with the wand or whatever you're making. It's like it will introduce itself to you if you're open.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I wish more people would realize that they can tune into a lot of stuff.
Yeah, some of the wands that I have, I've lived with the wood for several years before it finally started to speak to me and told me what it wanted to be. And, yeah, it's definitely good. Shay says, hello, Siofra, Ian, and all. Your Bridget is
Hi,
beautiful. Hi, Shay. Thank you for joining us on your little break that you get. Moonfire says, you make Sundays something I look forward to. Thank you so much. You're welcome. We look forward to it, too. Krista says, I have book, patchwork, dresses, crystals, witchy books from library, etc. Do you know, I agree with Ian that spells can be for mental issues, too. Not just spells, but all kinds of magic. Shay says, not a question, was a statement. That's fine. I figured that out. Modrin says, it's stunning. Thank you. I enjoyed making it. And when I'm making something like that, I want to make sure I'm in the right frame of mind when I'm doing it. So if I'm working on a magical object, a wand or a bracelet or a piece of art, if I'm in a bad mood, I don't work on it at all because I'm like, yeah, don't need to do that. I made a tiger collar for my granddaughter, and she was being a real pissant at the time, several times during that period. And when I found myself being very annoyed with her, I just put the thing away and waited for a while. So it took me a lot longer to make that one because it was a gift for a family member. So Angela says, do you and Ian know what entities are associated with moths? If any, I have seen a few moths out of season, and last night one was above my head as I was meditating in bed. I don't usually have moths in such close proximity, so I was wondering if it was someone. Good question. I'm sure that there are lunar goddesses and gods that are associated with the moth, since it's a night-flying creature. Have to do a little research and see what might come up.
But yeah, other than generally lunar, I don't have any suggestions.
It also could have something to do with like a deity of dreams. I have this vague memory that moths can bring you dreams, but I don't know if that's real or not. It's just something that rattled around in my head suddenly. So yeah, just check out some of the inferences and so forth and see if you can find something. But I wouldn't be surprised if one of the moon goddesses have the moth as one of her connections to the earth plane.
One, yeah.
Yeah. Billy Putty says, depends on what the intention is, though. Mixed Diva says, I make my own enchanted rings, and the crystal and in my protection ring did its duty the other day. I was kayaking and hit a really rough spot. I eventually made it to shore, but the crystal was gone when I did. They say that happens, that if it's, there for a specific reason, it can go away. I'm still having trouble keeping that one rock I have in my pocket. I found it, I put it in my pocket, I checked on it every day, and then it's gone again. I don't know how it escaped. So I'm now keeping my eye out for it to see how many days in a row can I keep this crystal on me. I'm thinking maybe it's an energetic thing. It says, okay, you've had enough of me, now I'm leaving. And then it comes back when I'm ready to have it again. It's an apatite, is the stone. I don't know. Angela says, I've been trying to research, haven't found much. Well, we'll check in some of our sources and see if we come up with anything. Mixed Diva says, it's always sad when the crystal leaves, but you know that it did its job. Eleonora says, hello, I'm new here. Has anyone encountered with a large fey being with the body of a deer, head of an owl, and antler-like tree branches? Well, the fey that I see are human-shaped, mostly, but that doesn't mean there isn't something like that out there. So I don't know. I don't know what that would be. Sounds pretty interesting, though. Adam, question. Might sound like a weird question, but have you ever heard of any spirit wanting a romantic relationship with any of their followers? Do spirits have relationships with humans like that? Some of them do. And
Yeah.
again, it's up to you to decide if it's okay or not.
Generally, from Barton's point of view, it's not a good idea.
Because then it creates too much of an energetic bond that then they're attached, you're attached, and then when you're dead, you end up going with them.
Yep.
And they change your energy. Yeah. That kind of energy will transform your energy, and it might seem like a good idea at the time, but unless you want to spend the next millennia or so wandering around the cosmos with that specific being,
you eventually end up, in most cases, back on your regular progress and regular lives. It's not like you have to serve them for
for all eternity.
For all eternity or anything like
but
that.
But time is so strange.
Yeah. It's like that thing you were saying. They forget, and all of a sudden, you end up somewhere else.
Yeah. Angela says, I found an association with Goddess Luna, but that's for the lunar moth. My local moth is Miller. Well, if you don't have a local Luna moth, then it could be a good substitute. That'd be really amazing if you saw that moth in a place where it doesn't happen. That could be a significant sign. But if moths are generally associated with her, then it could be that this is just the moths that she has available.
Did you get Ellie and Nora's question? I mean, I was distracted for a minute, seeing my have anybody gathered a large fae. Okay.
That's what we just talked about that.
All right. I was doing something over here.
Okay, so Jonathan says, I get that it is best to start with any magical object the correct way. Do you think we can overcome shortcomings in the creation process with work done later, or is the original work set in stone? I think you can modify it. I think it depends. I think depending on the object, it can get more powerful as you become more clear and more sure of what you're doing.
If that's what you want, the more times you use it, but we've got a bunch of magical mirrors around here, and I'll charge one up for something, and then I'll decharge it and charge it up for something entirely different. I mean, it's a mirror, so there's limited uses for it,
but yeah. And it depends on the object and its significance, emotional connections, and so forth, like the things that are on my staff. So. Angela says, if your crystals or magical things break, did its job? That's what they say. Yep, Mixed Diva says, haha, the sum of my crystals leave occasionally drives me wild and I can't find them. Yeah, it's driving me up a wall. Especially since I had it in my pocket and then it's just like gone.
I wish I'd stop losing my glasses.
Oh yeah, but they're not that magical.
No, but I lose them a lot.
But you lose them a lot. Angela says, a puka, that's the only fae I've heard of having horns, where the puka people used to tease them by saying, puka puka, show us your horns, then would wonder why they'd get mad in the stories. Well, yeah, making fun of a magical creature sounds like a brilliant notion, doesn't it? Modrin says, I now tend to put on a black tourmaline bracelet on my right hand when I'm working because it sets a focus and awareness on what I'm doing with my hands and keeps negative influences away. Yeah, I use black tourmaline and sometimes black spinel and sometimes obsidian or smoky quartz. And I usually put them on my left hand for some reason. But I use them for the same reason, like when I'm shopping and stuff like that, to keep negative influences and entities and so forth away and keep my mind clear. So it just depends on how your energy works, where you're going to put it. But yeah, it's a good idea. Brenda says, I enjoy your post so much. Your Bridget is awesome. I don't have the patience to do beadwork. Is there a good reference book that describes crystals and how to work with them? Okay, I've probably got about 4 different crystal books, and none of them are completely accurate. So, let's see. There's the big one. I have to look at my library. I picked them up. Cunningham has one on crystals. It's actually a lot of authors have ones on crystals. I'm going to think of one of the other authors. So, yeah, we'll have to look into it. I think in the video I did on crystals and how to work with them, I talk about the different crystal books I use. So,
and to a certain extent, things are flexible. I mean, you take into account the properties depending what you're looking for, and choose one that's either heavy or light colored or dark colored, or purple if you're looking or blue if you're looking for Jupiter. You'd use a blue stone, that kind of thing. So you can, to a certain extent, you can figure out what it's good for. I like to find
As a
out,
planetary thing, it's easier.
Yeah,
Elementally, it's different.
I like to find out if there's been a traditional use for it in the
Yeah,
past, and
me
usually
too.
there's a lot of energy in that if it's been used traditionally for a particular purpose, like amethyst to prevent drunkenness, things like that.
Make your mind clear.
And if you align it with those old things, you can.
It has
draw
more of
certain
a
amount of energy
reservoir
from that.
of energy
Yes.
available because it's been built up for thousands of
Yeah.
years or centuries or what have you, with people using it for the same reason.
Yeah.
They used to actually make goblets out of amethyst and drink out of them. But there's not that many giant amethysts
Wasn't
anymore
that supposed to be for? That was supposed to be for poison, right?
to prevent.
To prevent poisoning in your, for like
Yeah.
kings and things. I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken.
Violet says, I watched a movie, I can't remember the title, but the moth was a lady entity in that one. Chill Baby says, I heard another YouTube mention grabbing a stone or crystal bracelet for like $3 to $5. Is this common price for anyone? Here, that would be at least 15. It depends on if you find them on sale. I once got a whole bunch of the black tourmaline bracelets because Fire Mountain Gems was actually having a sale on them. They got a glut of them. And I think I bought like 10 or so bracelets, and I've given them out to people and used them for paranormal research and, ghost proofing and that kind of thing. So Lily Putty says, I would burned my spirit board and covered it in resin and love looking at it. But is it wise to have it covered when not in use? Well, I mean, it depends on if it's charged up.
Yeah, and I would say that it is, but people don't have to worry about things coming through as nearly like you get portrayed in the shows and things. It's not really that that big of a deal. In most cases, you'd want to keep it covered to protect the energy it's charged up with and keep that energy there and going and things like that. But I don't think it's necessary personally as a safety issue. So I think I'd still recommend it anyway in general. But and what the heck, if it is a safety issue somewhere, then you've got it covered anyway.
This is true. Illy Putty says left hand should be for opening, right hand is for protection from what I've read as far as bracelets. Well, that's the common associations with that. But I think that I put it on my left hand because I'm so incredibly receptive. I'm trying to block anything from coming in to the receptive part of me. And everyone's going to be different. And then if you're right-handed, it's one thing. If you're left-handed, it's another. So dominant hand versus submissive hand or secondary hand, I'm sort of ambidextrous. So it kind of doesn't apply as much.
Right.
And it is just like an association that people have. And you sort of train yourself to use it that way.
The right side is generally the projective side and the left side the receptive side. So that's what
Yeah.
I would do. I'd put it on the left side if you want to block
To keep things
the
from
energy
getting in.
out. Yeah.
I don't want to receive them.
Depends. Protection, if you're looking at offensive protection in like this thing goes and whacks anybody who comes after you or something, then then that would definitely be a right hand.
So the bottom line is whatever feels right for your hands and your energy is what you should do.
That's the most important things.
And Modrin says, yeah, on the left hand I have it for general protection, and on the right to keep my action pure in a way, if that makes sense. Sounds good to me. Krista says, I haven't watched that one, the one on crystals. Modrin says, at least that's how it's been working for me, and that's the thing. Luna says, Judy Hall, The Crystal Bible. Yeah, that's definitely one of the books I have. I have some others. She's got nice pictures. I like her pictures. Color pictures, so you can actually see what it looks like, not just a drawing or something. Mixed Diva says, I have a somewhat unpopular opinion on crystals. I think crystals are not bound to have their energy categorized. I think each crystal's energy is individual and unique, with some exceptions, of course. I think a rock in your garden can do anything you need it to do in a pinch.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they're just tools anyway to help you. So yeah, and I'm sure each one is individual. I haven't gotten to know any particular crystals that well to know the individual things.
Well, I have that one blue kyanite, raw blue kyanite that showed me its actual spirit form.
But I have no doubt, yeah. I agree.
That was the first time.
I hadn't been aware of specific aspects in crystals, but everything else is individual, so I would expect so.
Luna says, short descriptions of crystals, but color images comes in 3 parts. Krista says, refracted light.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mixed Diva says, also, I want an amethyst goblet now. Wow. Angela says, oh, wow, Violet, that sounds pretty. I haven't found such a movie. I may research Luna and see maybe if she's wanting me to reach out. Yeah, why not? Krista says, very nice visualization. Brenda says, thanks, Luna, I'll look for it. Motorin says, I also think in terms of left is receptive and right is projective. Billy Putty says, I'm left-handed, so all of that makes sense. There you go. Lulu says, hooray, made it to my first live. Hello, hi,
Hooray.
Welcome to your first live. It's always good to get new people. Joy C. Jean says that Mixed Diva defeats the purpose of having the glass of wine if it's in an amethyst goblet, because it's supposed to keep you from getting drunk. Yeah, this is true. Well, so, what would be the point?
Well, only if it's, uses like that include needing charging up. I mean, to a certain extent, that energy is going to be there and you can tap into it, but you also need to work with it and charge it up for a purpose like that.
So Illy Putty says, how long have you been practicing? What has the history of your experience been? I've been doing stuff since I was about 4 years old, and I'm now 72. I was a natural. I was an open child. I saw spirits and beings, and so I had to figure out how to deal with that. I found some actual structure later on in the early 80s with Starhawk's book, although I read Bonowitz's book and some other magical tomes like Diary of a Witch by Sybil Leek and that kind of thing. So, but I always knew I was a witch when I was little. As far as I know, since I was at least 6, I've known that I was a witch. And I also remembered being burned at the stake as being a witch, which I thought was maybe a warning, but it didn't work because I'm just too open and I tell everybody anyway. Some people think that's not a good thing, but it's just the way it is. I've had so many experiences. That's why I started doing the YouTube channel, because I had such a wide range of personal encounters with different things. And I figured it'd be a good resource, and a lot of the stuff hasn't been available in books. And then Ian has got his own field of expertise, and we complement each other fairly well. He's going to start getting more into doing videos, so he's working towards that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I don't get too so detailed in some of the stuff that people just get tired of it and don't want to hear it. You can go too far for details on things.
So Motorin says, I feel like this reality is so malleable, you could say your tools are as limited as your mind and imagination. Oh, that's be one way of looking at it. Mixed Diva says, at Joy Touche, maybe I should just display it then? Yes, display the goblet. Billy Putty says, my experience has been very similar. Thank you for being so open. You're welcome. I mean, the thing is when you're born the odd person in your area, maybe in your state or whatever, it's like trying to figure out where you fit in and how to do it the right way, especially when I lived in an age there were no books, there were no teachers, not that I could find. I actually even went to the National Archives in Washington, D.C. when we moved down to Virginia to try and find some ancient books, the ancient grimoires and books on witchcraft and so forth, but they were all written by Christians against witches and none of them were accurate, so, which was entertaining. I read something, I go like, no, that's not how it happened. That's not what we did. I was like, this is wrong. So, struggling as long as I can. Adam, question. A professional occultist, universal mastery, claims that psychic skills have absolutely nothing to do with open chakras, but our ability to store sexual energy. What do you think about this? I don't really have much to say about that because that
Well,
sounds like someone who really wants people to get into sexual energy.
Let me put it this way. What can that person actually do compared to what the old Hindu masters and things that used the Kundalini and awakened those chakras, what could they do? And if you look at some genuine stories of what they could do, I think, though what they do is also storing sexual energy as part of it, especially in India, but what they could do is incredible. Really, some of the realistic ones. If you read Paul Brunton or Idris Shah books, you can find out some of the stuff they saw when they went and visited India and places like that, and saw real miracle workers. They're genuine article, and is this guy capable of that? Can this guy teleport objects like some of these Indian masters do? I mean, it's pretty hard to, just throw it all out and say these guys didn't know anything. That's pretty.
Well, since we don't know who this person is.
Yeah. Seems like a lot of hubris to me, though.
Well, it could be, or it could be. I mean, my opinion on psychic ability has to do with you becoming a clear individual and being able to pay attention to your environment. Nothing to do with sexual energy whatsoever. It can be enhanced by it, or it can be moved by it, and it can be a part of it depending on your age, and depending on your energy levels and so forth. But I don't know that that is a benchmark by which to decide if someone is psychic or not. And it does sort of have the hint of the potential for making some kind of a cultish kind of following or what have you. But since we don't know who you're talking about, there's no way for us to say.
You look at people like Sai Baba, he's well known to have materialized things, all kinds of things.
Yeah, including photographs that have never been taken.
Yes. Well, there's some stories of him doing that to people, and somebody claimed, I think,
I heard this story from one of his followers, and there's no smoking allowed on his ashram.
Yeah, okay, it was smoking.
And one of the Westerners who were there figured, well, there's no cameras here and he'll never know. And he went to a hidden location and smoked. And Sai Baba went like this and took out a picture of him smoking where he had been out of the air and says, I told you no smoking, so you're out of here.
And so many reliable people have seen him materialize things down. He's not alive now, but...
Yeah, and I actually met a person who was there when it happened. He was one of the professors at the University of Saskatchewan, and he went there every year to the ashram.
Well, that's it with the books by Paul Brunton and Idris Shah, is they really contacted miracle workers, and they did their best using the scientific method to prove that there was no trickery involved. And one of them was like teleporting a shotgun into the guy's house. I think it was one of Idris Shah's, it might have been Brunton, but teleported the shotgun in, and then the guy had to run across town to get his shotgun back, because apparently the guy had done this multiple times. It was somebody else's shotgun, so some of them are kind of funny, but people have seen this and have written it down.
I've definitely had some things teleport in spontaneously when the times I've lost some keys and they've appeared either in the middle of the air and fallen on the floor in front of my face or inside a pocket I'd looked in 1,000 times. But anyway, it's, again, you got to use your sensibilities when you're deciding who to follow and who's right or wrong. I mean, people can say anything, and that's the thing I keep trying to explain, is that our best teacher is actually the world and the universe that we live in, not the people that are in it.
And you look at the life of some of these people, like Barden. Everything is well known about his life. He had students, they lived. Dr. MK, his son, they're out there alive. They saw him doing the magic. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people who knew he really could do practically miracles, and saw him do it in person. So that's really helpful, because it's a living tradition. Starting in Czechoslovakia,
So Krista says mood magic, the voodoo doll spell work, farmhouse witchcraft, some books I have at the house. Okay. Lou L says perhaps a stupid question. What is a symbolic meaning of Luna looking at a sun and 3 stars between them? Oh, the moon and the sun and the 3 stars between the moon and the sun, if that's what you're describing. Yeah, moon. I don't know if there's what the significance of that symbolism is.
I think I'm familiar with that.
So Illy Putty says, and now there's Amazon and reviews. Struggle was worth it. How do you get to travel or speak with people such as these? Aside from being a natural born witch, Native American, I'm curious as to how to find opportunities to investigate.
Well, I believe, and it may be the case with both, but Paul Brunton at least got his book publisher to send him to do this research. And so he was researching for a book.
I think nowadays it'd be a lot more difficult.
He got an advance on his book sales.
It's very dangerous to travel in a lot of countries. And although on one level I think it would be wonderful to be able to go to all those places and go there in person, the world has gotten
ready for the reality of it.
Yeah, the world has gotten to be a very fractured and dangerous place. Like, I wouldn't at this point go to India because there's too much stuff between the different caste system and between the Muslims and the Christians and the Hindus and everything else. And you don't know the territory. You don't have people that you know. If you know somebody, that's a different story. Then they can provide you with the information you need to protect yourself. It's kind of like, okay, I met a woman up north in British Columbia who came from Florida and had lived in Alaska, and she was telling us the story about her and bears. So Florida is filled with snakes. There's snakes everywhere, all kinds of poisonous snakes. It's a very hazardous environment for that. She went to Alaska, and she was just so happy and excited that there were no snakes. She wasn't afraid of anything. So she goes berry picking. And the people that she's going berry picking with tell her she needs to have a gun and she needs to watch out for bears because bears like berries. And she's like, they're not snakes. What do I have to worry about? So she goes berry picking, and sure enough, on the opposite side of the place where she's picking berries, a bear comes up to pick berries on the other side, and someone ended to protect her. But she had a good point. Is like, the things you don't know you need to watch out for are the things that will kill you. And just because you've adapted to the environment you're in doesn't mean that you can then take all of that and plant it in another environment where you don't know the terrain. Like, stick me in a jungle in South America, I'm probably going to be dead in about 5 minutes because I have no clue what to do.
Yeah, and for so long I wanted to go on. A gentleman by the name of Alberto Villoldo was giving tours in Peru and magical tours to talk with genuine shamans and things. And I really wanted to do that, but in retrospect, I was very naive about what a person would experience, in that environment. I'm sure he wouldn't have selected me. He just selects a few people, but yeah, thinking about it now, I'm glad that never happened and I never tried to do one of those.
Okay, so Lou says yes with the moon. Adam says, question, besides the Rabbi Golem story, have you ever heard of anyone giving life to an inanimate object before? In India, giving life to a statue is something that has happened.
Yes, actually, there have been several of them that supposedly have come out and talked to people. One of them, Rama, I'm not sure. Apparently, actually, people heard the offering giving and being eaten, smacking sounds and stuff, and there was nobody else in there. And yeah, interesting phenomena. Sorry.
Yeah, and they do that by imbuing the statue with the idea of being alive and seeing it as alive, and occasionally it does seem to come alive.
Yeah, treating it like it's alive, yeah,
right.
Basically.
So that's a culture that has that in it. Mixed Diva says, I had a past life in India. It is one of the lives I remember most, and it was a wonderful place at that time. I'm pretty sure I did as well, and so did Ian, because the Hindu deities just seem to really like us a lot. And they show up, and, are there, and they're just like very familiar with us. So I'm thinking that that's unlike, it's not one of the ones I've consciously remembered, but it's got to be one of the ones that I've had, and same with you.
Yeah, I don't consciously remember any, but I suspect I was at least Japanese once, and then India. I'm pretty sure.
So
It's mostly guesswork.
Aaron Jones says, I was talking with a few other people about singing or chanting to call energy yesterday. Which works faster, singing or dancing? They both work about the same.
It depends a lot.
You can dance and sing simultaneously, although you might get very dizzy very fast from lack of oxygen because you're using up oxygen in your blood with your dancing, and then you're not breathing as much with your singing. But I think it just depends upon the person.
Yes,
drumming is another way.
It's going to be what's most effective for you.
Yeah.
Specifically.
And if you're doing a group thing, if you're going to do that kind of stuff for a group, you need to have someone who's monitoring the levels of energy in the space and can get you to stop doing it when you've gotten the most energy out of what you're doing, so then you can use the energy you've accumulated, because there's like a curve in there. It's like you start doing stuff, it goes up, it goes up, it goes up, everybody gets really super excited, then they go past the peak, and then it starts to drop down because it's expended too much, there's no extra energy left, and it just keeps on going down until there's nothing left, and then everybody's just tired. So for doing actual magic, you want to be able to go up to the top of that peak,
yeah.
And then there do the work that you've decided you want to do, and then shoot the energy out and send it out to the universe to do the job you want it to do. So, all right. Angela says, oh my gosh, I just turned and moth was on my shoulder. Well, that seems pretty significant.
Sounds awesome to me.
In the middle of a conversation about this, I'd say, uh-huh.
Yep. The universe is telling you something.
Uh-huh. And so Adam says, question, do all spirits have a light-dark aspect, or do some only have one? Depends on their job, and depends on your definition of light and dark. I mean, in reality, the universe is composed of both, in balance, moving from one state to another constantly. It's like everything's in flux and motion. If you look at the Tai Chi symbol, or what people call the yin-yang symbol, you've got like, the one side is black and has a white dot in it. The other side is white and has a black dot in it. And they look like they could spin for a reason, because it represents that process and so forth. And so I would say in general, probably everything in existence has both. And it depends on your circumstances and where you are in line with them as to whether you're going to receive what you think is positive or negative results.
Also depending on a person's own judgments and expectations and things too.
Yeah.
Can modify that a lot.
So Brenda says, if a person wants to experience the she, is it best to go hang out in the woods? Yeah. That's a definite. And the she decide. I mean, the relationship I have with them, it's not like I ask them to do me favors, they ask me to do them favors, or I'm asking them to help me with a magic spell or anything like that. It's like they are their own thing. And I'm aware of the fact that they're there. I am my own thing, and they're aware of the fact that I am here. And occasionally I've been in a position to assist when they need a human who's got a special kind of energy to be able to focus something in the right direction. And on occasion, they volunteer to try and help me to make me feel better. I've had them come and do healings on me and stuff like that from time to time. So my philosophy is not, I'm not working with them in the way that people think. It's more like a relationship with a group of beings that happen to exist. So they decide how much contact and how little contact they'll have with you, because, they've got their own boundaries. Lulu says, how do animals know who they like? Do they see something we don't? Animals always seemed to like me since childhood. I even came across a bear when backpacking 20 plus years ago on sigils, and he didn't hurt me. I think that they read our aura and they feel our energy.
Animals can be very aware.
I mean, they see things we don't see, and although some of us see auras, not all of us do, but I think that animals generally do see auras. And so if you have a a special pet that you've had around for a long time, and a stranger comes in and all of a sudden they have a really negative reaction to that person, I would say it's best to like not be in contact with that person anymore because they know something you don't.
Keep in mind that they're always going to be wild animals, though, and some of them are just going to be like,
Well, some of them might eat you if you
well,
get in the wrong
you
place at
remember
the wrong
that,
time.
you know, that little kitten we found that was so damaged that we couldn't keep him.
Yeah, that was sad. And it attacked Ian when he was trying to pet it because it was in such a state of anxiety.
It had been tortured by humans.
Very badly. Fortunately we were able to find a shelter for it. A local woman who has like a cattery that she has at her business, and she took the little guy in. She also took the cat to the vet, and but it was not an animal you could live with.
Yeah, it'd been
It
too damaged,
stayed with other cats, and it had a life.
too traumatized.
So,
yeah,
it was a terrible thing. But we couldn't blame the kitten, because it's like a reactionary kind of a thing to a strange situation, and yeah, it was weird and it was sad. And I really wanted to find out who did it in our neighborhood and hunt them down. We both did. Let's hunt these people down. How dare they do this to a poor little animal? So we figure there must have been an up-and-coming serial killer in our area at the time.
especially a kitten that young, a kitten
Yeah.
that small, to abuse it, and they cut its nipples off and a bunch of other awful stuff.
So, Illy Putty says, any ideas on symbolism in spellcraft? Do you rely on sigils you create, or do you find them through text? I don't create sigils the way they talk about them, where I'm going to be doing like an affirmation and turn it into a shape and stick it on a wall. I mean, I don't work that way in particular. And so my associations are more with natural objects, like my wands, or, something I find in the yard, or a deity I'm working with, and I have a direct communication line with them, going to a natural place that resonates and talking to them there. Spirit seals are something different, though, and spirit seals are very specific to a specific being, or planetary seals. And seals we use, and we've done a number of different seals for different reasons to connect us to that particular entity.
But the trick is making sure you have a valid seal to start with, and that's why I use Barden stuff, because he's basically 100%. Unless there's a printer's error or a typo or something, his information is good on that stuff.
So Luel says he looked at me, started to get up on his legs, changed his mind, and walked away. That would be the bear, which is good. Maybe bear is your power animal. Joyce says, if you use a poppet to help with healing someone, how do you safely dispose of it when its job is done? Haven't found that covered anywhere. Neither have I, and I have one currently that I'm using to help someone, which is a healing poppet, and he is still going through some procedures. So I have not decided if it's time for me to let it go. And
I think burying it.
I was thinking, I don't think I want to use fire on it, but burying it and
you
letting.
wouldn't want to bury it symbolically, but you want to bury it with
the intent to let it like dissipate,
let the earth cleanse it,
and go back to the earth.
Yeah, let the earth
because
cleanse
its
it out.
purpose has been fulfilled.
Yeah.
You wouldn't recycle it and put another person's name on it. Because it's kind of like a one-off when you're doing a poppet, I think.
Yeah, so that would be my suggestion. I mean, if it has an elemental aspect, destroying it by that element. But if not, I'd say bury it. Earth is good, universal for clearing out energy.
So Mixed Diva says, I'm surprised animals like humans at all. After all we've done to harm so many of them. This is true.
Yep.
Aaron says, if one of my dogs does not let a person touch him, I stay away from that person. Good job. I approve. That's definitely a good thing to do. Yeah.
We now have a friendly neighborhood dog, which is nice.
Yes, her name is Rainbow. And she's really very friendly and very cute. So we're not too worried about her like getting up in our business in a bad way. We've had so many people with dogs that they've trained to be non-social completely. You know, it's like Well, one of my sisters was actually attacked by a dog, and ended up having to have reconstructive surgery. Long story, but the thing about that was my other sister kept saying things like, "Well, if they had, it was clearly not a well-trained dog, or they didn't train it right, or whatever." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's true. It's not trained at all, because a well-trained dog is able to intelligently assess a situation and decide whether action is necessary, and this dog didn't do that. So they trained this dog just to be mean and crazy, and it was known to attack other people, so it's a sad thing." Erin says, "I got Goldens too." Golden Retrievers?
I would assume that.
Susanna says, "Hello." Hi, Susanna. Jonathan says, "Illy, I'm really glad I've put effort into understanding the most common symbols like the pentagram, hexagram, tetratus, encore, etc." And Ian says, "Hi, you're welcome," or welcome to you, to Susanna. Violet says, "Anyone who does that kind of crime to a kitty should have the same crime done to them and see how it feels, is all I can think of. Same with all animals that are hurt by us. Reverse it. Amen." The other thing, now this was a weird story I just ran across yesterday. This guy killed his girlfriend, went to bury her, and then had a heart attack and died in the process of trying to bury the body. I was wishing it had happened like before he killed her, but it was sort of like one of those potential examples of instant karma. I mean, we're talking within minutes. It's like, poof, there you go. I thought, how bizarre is that? Aluna says, "You can empty the poppet, bury the contents, assuming they are biodegradable, and then cleanse the doll itself, then reuse." No, not the one I have.
They're so
I've,
easy to make, though.
Well,
I'd
yeah.
make a new one anyway.
And I've written the name in indelible ink on the poppet to identify it. So in my case, I couldn't do that. I suppose if you had some general kind of poppet thing you were doing, and you made like a name tag that you put over top that you could take off. But I'd rather start brand new.
I don't know, poppets aren't that hard to make of some
Well,
sort.
and
so,
focusing on it, when I'm making a poppet, before I put anything in it, I'm already starting to do the magic, because I'm focusing on the purpose of the poppet and putting that into every thread pull that I put through, and and then stuffing it with the herbs and what they're for and what I want them to do and everything, and then putting in the crystals to do their thing to help with it. I put several crystals in his poppet, and he was going through some pretty intense stuff that everyone was pretty sure he was going to die. And so it's going to be a personal choice, but like you say, it's easy enough to make a poppet. We should do a video on poppets and how to make a poppet.
Well, and especially for things like healing yourself, things like that people don't normally think of. They think of the witchcraft voodoo dolls, but they don't think they can be used on themselves to good benefit. Things like that.
And Aaron says, "Yes, golden retrievers, very friendly dogs." Adam says, "From biblical lore, if you have seen them in the Astral." I'm not sure what that relates to. I have no context for that one for some reason. Yet I miss.
Well, the previous question
was about the golem.
If all spirits have a light or dark aspect.
Oh, right. Okay. And it says, "Okay, not in that case then." Well, every situation is different. That's the thing about magic, is like when you're deciding to do something, trying to think of the potential ramifications, like how you're going to finish it off and so forth, is important, and considering the ethical implications of what you're about to do. So at least when you decide you're going to do something that may be seen as intervening in the natural world or whatever, you have your brain all set up in the right direction to know why this is necessary, why you feel you're the person to do it, and why this is a good idea, So I don't run around making poppets all the time. So Adam added 2 things that doesn't help. All we're seeing is the thing about spirits having light and dark. So you need to repost the question. It didn't come through.
Well, I think that was I may be mistaken, but I was thinking that's what he's saying, light and dark from biblical lore.
So Joy says, so what did you do for the crows to guard you? Apparently, what I did was feed them a lot of peanuts, and they really appreciated it a lot. And they adopted me. So I've become a part of their flock. And so they protect me like they would protect any other member of their flock. And when someone is threatened, they gather together. And they come in from all over. Other flocks will come and help protect too. And we had that thing with the eagle that was in a local tree. And there must have been about 10 different flocks of birds from every direction coming to that single tree in order to defend the crows that were in that tree from the eagle and get the eagle out of there, which they did. So it's about a relationship. I mean, I'm not asking them to protect me. I'm not making them protect me. I've developed a relationship with these crows. I talk to them. I give them peanuts.
Develop a relationship with the universe, not just crows, trees,
yes,
plants.
Everything.
Absolutely.
And it's true. They all like to help. From time to time, I get assistance from all different things. They go like, hey, look this way. Adam says YouTube is censoring. So I guess you can't ask that question.
He's going to repost it, he said.
Well, good luck. Joy says to get them to guard you. Yeah, we did that. Adam says I'm reposting it. Zuzana says Adam tried to rewrite it. And remember, we only have 7 minutes left. So if it's a complicated question, it will not be answered. Brenda says, I've always felt drawn to crows and ravens, not sure why. Well, they're the most populous birds out there, and they're just really gorgeous, aren't they? I mean, they're just amazing birds, and they're easy to see and notice, and they're very intelligent. They're the smartest bird out there. They have the highest brain, the largest brain for a bird of any of the birds is the crow and the raven. So, they're about the intelligence of a 6-year-old child, they think.
So.
And they love puzzles, which is why I feed them peanuts so they can take them apart. I don't think they would like it as much if I had all shelled peanuts and just threw them out and they got to eat them. They eat them, but it doesn't give them that, ooh, I got to figure out how to
take it apart, crack it open.
That's right. It gives them some tactile kind of sensory input that goes beyond that. And they can carry it pretty easily and take it somewhere else. Lewell says, my father died 12 years ago. Is it still possible to tell him a few things, or has it been too long? Oh, it's definitely possible, and this is what I would recommend. I mean, my father died the year before Ian and I met, so in 1990. And I definitely have done plenty of work with him with that. But, it's like the stuff you need to continue to process is what it's about. It's not necessarily about them hearing you, but about you being able to externalize what has happened, that you either the message of, I wish I was there, I'm sorry I missed your death, or how could you be like that to me? Whatever it is, you can write it out on a piece of paper, read it aloud in an environment. If it's very intense, have some close friends with you. They don't necessarily need to know why you're doing it that way if they're, good friends. And just say, hey, I need to process some of this stuff with my father, and I'd like to have some emotional support because it could be intense for me. And then read it aloud. And then after you read it, you can burn it to send it off to them. You can bury it in the ground to send it through the earth. It's a very important process that we can do, and it doesn't matter whether they're actually there or not, but on some level they are going to know. But the main thing is for you. It's for you to be able to process that and get that out. I did a birthday. I planned a birthday party one year when I lived in Santa Cruz. And one of the things I did for the birthday was to read a poem I wrote to my father about what he did to me and how I felt and what I made out of it and how I came through it. And I had about a dozen people who were there with me, maybe a few less than a dozen. And it was very important for me to do that. And that was before he died. So I started doing this before he actually went on the other side. So yeah.
Well, and one thing is, they'll they'll end up getting some part of that energy anyway. It will get to them regardless if they're still on the astral, if not, if they've been reborn, and I don't know. I have no idea the time periods between rebirths or anything, so, but it'll still, that energy will still get to them.
So Susanna says, have you ever talked to or saw spirits from different planets or parts of space? Not from different planets outside of our solar system, but I have encountered
Really?
some beings from Pluto and from Jupiter and from the sun, and things like that at various times. But no actual alien spirits from another planet outside of our solar system. But angels.
It deleted somebody's message, but I got all this crappy porn stuff.
Yep.
Because crappy porn people are out there trying to crap up everything.
Yes, they are. We'll get them blocked, and then they'll come back another.
So I accidentally hid Susanna from the channel, I think.
Oh, it was. Can you unhide her?
I don't know. I'm gonna try. It was an accident. It was aimed at all that porn.
Well, we can do that later. I hope she understands us. If someone knows Susanna, let her know that we weren't trying to get her off the site, but I can go in later and unblock her.
Yeah, because I don't know how to do it right here. It was an accident.
And I can't do an undo thing here. So Jonathan says, time in Akasha doesn't exist. Everything is all at once. Time on the physical plane is concrete. Do you think time gets more wonky as you move physical to astral to mental to Akasha? That's not a bad question.
Not really, but time on the physical plane is concrete. Okay, so you want time and space and form for the physical plane. For the astral, form is very important. So time is the astral is requires form, and then the mental is the creative plane and is also timeless and spaceless. Mental plane, timeless and spaceless. Astral plane, timeless but space. And physical, space and time, termination, form.
And the question is, if you go from here to the Akasha, as you move through the different planes, does time get more wonky?
Well, the minute you hit the astral plane, it's timeless and spaceless. I mean, not just the Akasha being timeless and spaceless, but a timeless and spaceless cause will have an effect on the mental plane. So the mental body is timeless and spaceless. So, not really. It's just kind of happens. The physical time is only really an important aspect on this plane. And that's one thing to remember. A lot of times beings do not experience time the same way we do at all because they're not on the physical plane if they don't have a physical body. So they don't have the same conception of time as we do. So yeah, the time aspect is really only useful for that, for getting a result, for trying to get a physical plane result.
Okay, so we got into the end of our show, and I don't think we can actually answer Adam's question in the space of 30 seconds. So ask us again, and we're going to get on there and get Susanna back. So if anyone knows
Maybe
her,
you can,
tell her that it was a mistake.
I wonder if we can send her an email or something.
And that we're going to try and get her back. So
I'm sorry, I have a new computer and the print is incredibly tiny on it. I didn't have time to fix that, so.
okay, guys, so thank you all for being present, and we had a great time as usual, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye. Blessed be.
Be.
Have a good full moon.
Sorry, Susanna.